Hello everyone, I'm Hannah Divino, together with my other co-members, Angelica Ampongan, Polaris Hannah Amor, and Thornton Sekira Jennifer Dell, to share with you the different methods of teaching or pedagogies and what are the target and learning needs do these pedagogies address. So the first one is the constructivist learning approach. The constructivist approach allows the learners to be actively involved in the learning process. Learners construct their own understanding of the world around them based on experience as they live and grow. The learners are active in the process of constructing meaning and knowledge rather than passively receiving information. In this approach, it is the learners who make meaning of what they learn, and it is the teachers who creates a meaningful process of how students will be able to achieve that learning process, guiding them. Constructivist approach in teaching believes that it is always important to let the learners get involved in the process of learning a certain lesson, um, rather than just ingesting isolated pieces of information where students will only find it hard to find its relevance to them. So, in constructivist approach, there are four target and learning needs that can be addressed. The first one is shared knowledge between teachers and students. From this part, learning becomes more meaningful because of the interaction that is happening between the student and the teacher, where they have the opportunity to exchange informations. The next one is shared authority between teachers and students. Uh, just like earlier, both the student and the teacher has the capability to share their ideas based on their observation. Observations where teacher share her observation as a teacher or as the guide, and student share their observation as the one being involved in the learning process. So the third one is teachers act as a guide or facilitator inside the classroom. From this approach, we do not simply let our students learn by themselves by just exposing them or letting them experience it. With our guidance as a teacher, students has the capability to know whether a specific thing they have observed or discovered is right or wrong, and what could be its purpose or why does it occur or happen. It is important that as they get to learn certain things, is that we help them also to understand those in order for us teachers to keep them on track. And the last one is learning groups consist of a small number of students. Learning from your peers or classmates who are also involved in the learning process makes learning a lot more meaningful and exciting. It is because as a student, you get to have a wider perspective of what is really needed to be learned and a wider understanding of how these things really happen. So the next approach or pedagogy is the collaborative learning approach or learning theory. Collaborative learning theory is an approach to teaching and learning that involves multiple learners working together to complete a task, solve a problem, and create a product. A small group instruction is based on this concept where different learners contribute and help each other learn. This educational approach makes learning fun and exciting because students tend to work with groups, and with the help of this approach, students then had a capability of learning new concepts or ideas about a certain lesson because of their group mates. Uh, and also, with the help of collaboration, it makes it easier for the students to comprehend well the lessons because they work all together. Um, Collaborative learning, it also enhances students' social skills. Why? It is because students learn to socialize with their group mates in order for them to have a fruitful work or productive output in order to complete a certain task. This type of approach in learning also develops the students' other more skills because they tend to address what might be lacking from their other members and also they harness their other members' strengths. Now let's talk about the target and learning needs of collaborative learning. The first one is learn from your peers or from one another. Um, it is important that our students learn how to work collaboratively by opening themselves to learn from their co-members in order for them to have a better understanding and a meaningful collaboration, which could also result in a wonderful output. The next and the last one is to have a wider perspective of the topic by the group's different ideas and joint effort for better socialization among the group. Teachers should also let their students to learn from their classmates through group works or collaborative activities. It is because collaborative learning always helps students to engage themselves more rather than rather than just letting themselves sit there and listen from discussions. The third pedagogy is the inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning is a pedagogical approach to learning where students are presented with world problems and we also tend to give them the opportunity to solve them. Educators encourage their students to conduct investigations that will satisfy their curiosity and help them broaden their knowledge base and develop their skills. This type of learning approach gives more emphasis to the students because here teachers are encouraged to let the students learn about the lesson by letting them explore about it or ask questions or research about it in order for them to gain ideas about the lessons. Through this type of approach in learning, teachers are enabled to use different learning approaches like group works or even guided learning uh, so that they could let their students to practice learning by doing it through experience, discussion, or even exploring more of it by the use of research or experiments. One great thing about this approach in learning is that the students are actively engaged in the process of learning the lesson. They learn not by what they write, hear, see, or say, but they learn through what they have explored from their own first-hand experience of it. There are three target and learning needs here in inquiry-based learning. The first one is introducing new skills needed for all areas of learning. In here, students tend to learn new skills by exploring, and with the help of their experience, they tend to learn of the skills which they can also do. And this newly found skills, they had the opportunity to develop them through more explorations and experiences. The next one is develop critical thinking skills through questioning and experimenting. And here we do not simply let students explore by themselves because we should also guide them by trying to ask questions about it which therefore helps them to think deeper about what they have discovered. Uh, and therefore, it creates deeper understanding about it. The last one is letting them have a vivid perspective of the lesson through activities. So, from this approach, it is the teacher who makes a deeper learning of what the student have discovered about the lesson. Uh, with the help of explaining those certain parts which they still find it difficult, we are helping the student to make learning more meaningful to them. Because with the help of those, we tend to let the student learn of what is the relevance of of those things they have discovered by setting their experience as your example of it. The fourth pedagogy is the integrative approach. The integrative approach involves multiple academic disciplines. Common language is used cross-curricular, so students know what teachers are talking about as well as expectations. This approach provides learners with a learning environment that helps them to make connections of their learnings across the curricula. In integrative learning, students tend to apply their prior knowledge and experiences to their new ones at a much complex level to have a deeper understanding about it. With this type of learning, students to find connections between those past or prior knowledge they have and to those new ones that they have. Learning experiences from this approach requires more than one discipline, which therefore helps in preparing the students uh, deal with to deal effectively with complex issues and challenges which they might face in the future within the society. Uh, the benefit or the advantage of this approach is that we we as teachers we let them see the inter and intradisciplinary connections of their experiences and concepts so that we can help students to apply them to those complex issues or challenges. The first target or learning needs here in the integrative approach is we prepare learners for their future by exposing them to real situations and learn from them. Setting examples and creating connections of what they have learned and what they have experienced makes it easier for students to learn about it and therefore enables them also of what they can improve on or what they should avoid. The next and the last one is to focus on the relevance of the lessons rather than isolated facts, and guiding them to think critically of different situations and their relevance. With the help of practical examples where you use their experiences and what they know, will help learners focus on and what is relevant about it and therefore creates a deeper understanding of it, rather than just letting them know of what it is about. But the problem there is that they do not really know how it really works or what is the real purpose of it. The fifth pedagogy is the reflective approach. The reflective teaching approach is more for the teacher than the student. The teacher reflects upon lessons, projects, and assessments to see how they are improved in the future. The reflective teaching process can be an excellent way for new and seasoned teachers to improve their teaching methods and overall mental health. This approach in learning does not only focus on the students alone, but with the teacher as well. Because with the help of the assessments conducted from this type of learning, is that teachers will have this capability to assess themselves with which certain area could they still improve, whether it is with the approach they're using or maybe other areas. Reflective learning also is also applicable to students because in reflective learning it lets students learn the relevance of a certain thing through reflecting, of course, on what they have experienced with the help of reflecting, students then have the capability to have a deeper understanding of what they have learned and on why, what, and how it really happened. This type of learning or this approach in learning is more on analyzing because students will tend to develop their critical thinking skills by analyzing what they have experienced, and therefore, they will be able to identify what they should work on or focus on and what they should avoid. So, here are the target and learning needs in a reflective approach in learning. So, the first one is assess the strengths and weaknesses of the approach used for the lesson. By assessing the strengths and weakness of the approach, it will enable the teacher to improve their approach and also the students' learning because the teacher will then be able to address of what is lacking in the process of learning, which is also very essential in order for learning to be successful. Activities like journals or portfolios to help in assessing the lacking parts. With this kind of assessments, teachers then find it easier to find which part should they work on or avoid because this type of assessments are what we call as reflective type of assessments. The third one is to examine the students' learning experiences by asking them what they have learned from it and how they learn from it. Uh, from this part, students tend to have a deeper understanding of what they have experienced, and therefore, it also enables them to find the relevance of it to them. It also helps them to understand how they can learn more about what they have experienced over time. So that's all for this discussion. And again, I'm Hannah Divino saying thank you for listening and stay safe always.